good does that look? Perfect rendered pork belly fat and super puffed up crispy skin. It's not pork crackle unless there's a knife drag. Eating pork crackle this crunchy should be illegal. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create pork crackle every single time you cook it. So just sit right back, grab a drink or two, and let's get into it. Don't forget, when you subscribe, hit the bell notification. That way you'll be notified every time we're drinking more beer. Hold on, you're about to be given the secrets of creating crackle each and every time you cook pork belly. To create the perfect roasted pork belly with that super crunchy bubbly crackle, the cook starts at the butcher shop. Yes, that's right. And Mick the Master Cuddler out at Gippsland Premium Meat supplied me with this middle cut piece of pork belly. It has some lovely alternating layers of marbled meat and buttery fat that is crucial in creating succulent roasted pork belly. Now ideally you want the pork belly to be around 4 centimeters thick, and as I said, it needs to be cut from the middle section of the belly. The center part of the pork belly has the most even layering of meat to fat ratio, hence why it is the best cut to use when roasting pork belly. We now need to prep this belly for roasting, and I'll start by cutting it down into smaller, manageable pieces. And by doing this is just going to help with the end result when we're slicing up to serve out. Now using a very sharp knife, I'm going to score across each piece of the belly, only going as deep as 5 mil and spacing out about 10 mil apart. Prepping the skin like this is super crucial when you want to create that super soft, crunchy crackle. Putting the slices across the skin is just going to help you slice it up once it's cooked. To season the pork belly, we're keeping it simple with a dry brine mixture of salt and sugar. That being a 2-to-1 combination of 2 parts kosher salt to 1 part brown sugar to every 1.3 kilograms of pork belly. And once thoroughly mixed, place the pork belly skin side down into a tray. And then you're going to coat the flesh side of the pork belly with the dry brine. Don't forget hitting the sides as well. This dry brine is going to help season our pork belly as the salt is dissolved and drawn into the flesh. And that brown sugar is going to caramelize on the outside of the pork belly, creating an extra depth of sweet flavor to our pork belly. Now just placing each piece of pork belly skin side up on a wire rack that is sitting over a tray. And then after getting consent, using some paper towel, you're going to wipe down that skin and make sure you remove all of the salt and any sugar. And then we're going to place this pork in your fridge for 24 hours uncovered to allow that skin to dry out. Make sure there is no sugar left on the skin because it will burn during the cooking process. The same as salt. Don't allow salt to be left on the skin because it will draw moisture under it, keeping the skin moist. Smart! Today I'm going to be using a 57 centimeter Weber kettle, and I'm going to be utilizing the snake method because I want to be slow roasting at temps of around 120 degrees Celsius today. And how I'll do that is by carefully stacking briquettes in the Weber to form a snake. Taking your time to make it as neat as possible, and you'll get more stable temps this way. Then I'll add 12 briquettes to a chimney starter. I'll light them up, and once they're fully ashed over, I'll add them to one end of the snake and act like a fuse. I'll carefully put the grill back in place. Then I'll pop the lid back on, making sure all the vents are wide open. We're going to let that temp rise, and once it gets to about 30 to 50 degrees Celsius off our target temp, I'll close down that bowl vent to about halfway. Now the temp will keep rising, it's just going to slow down, and it should settle around our target temp of 120 degrees Celsius. I know this temp of 120 degrees Celsius will not create crackle, but what it will do is break down the collagen and turn it into gelatin. The pork belly has been air drying in the fridge for the last 24 hours. The skin is a lot drier and the salt and sugar has helped brine the meat. Just oil up a wire rack and then just place the pieces of pork belly on top of it and put these in the Weber away from that heat source. Put the lid back on, making sure that lid vents over our food. That way we're drawing the heat and smoke over it. We're going to let them bake away for 3 hours, or until they reach an internal temp of 90 degrees Celsius. Just keep a check on them with an instant read thermometer. It's okay, we can lift the lid because we're not creating the crackle yet. When the internal temp reaches 90 degrees Celsius, that's when the collagen would have turned to gelatin by now and softened up. It also allows the skin enough time to properly cook and tenderize, and therefore we can create that super soft, puffed, crusty crackle that everyone desires. Properly cooked is the key element here. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. There's a ton of collagen in here, and skin for some people can be hit and miss. Today, I'm using the snake method to slow roast some pork belly. And all up, this pork belly is gonna take around 3 to 3.5 hours to be perfectly cooked with succulent meat and super puffed up crispy skin. Or for those of you who love to use my beer timer, you're looking at a 7-beer cook. Cheers. The length of the cook really depends on the size of your pork belly. So just keep an eye on it with the instant read thermometer. The pork belly has reached that magical number of 90 degrees Celsius internally. Just get it out of the lever, but we are not done yet. Grab a pan that's big enough to fit all your pork belly into it and add 1.5 cups of vegetable oil. Although depending on the size of your pan, you may need a little bit more. The fact is we are now ready for the second part of the cook. That being to get this skin to crisp up, to get that crispy crackling that we all want. And this does have to happen pretty quickly. Hence why we are gonna shallow fry it. Even though the pork belly has been roasting away for a few hours, that skin still retains a lot of water. And we need to turn that water into steam. Now the biggest challenge for the entire cook is crisping up the skin. By shallow frying the skin, it allows us to get hot oil into every one of these slits we made. And this will allow the entire skin to get crispy, not just that top layer. Place the pork belly skin side down in the cold oil, and don't forget to add any of the pork fat that rendered out. And then heat the oil up over a medium heat. And then we'll see as everything starts to heat up and that moisture trapped in the skin turns to steam and starts to expand. And you'll know this because you'll start to see small bubbles forming around the pork belly. This is exactly the reaction we're after. When you fry the skin in oil at high enough temperatures, it directs that heat straight to the skin. So the water inside turns to steam, rapidly expanding and escapes. The protein network that was holding onto that water is forced to expand by the escaping steam. This leaves pockets of air behind. Then it becomes rigid, resulting in a crispy network of air bubbles, which puffs and crisps up the pork skin, creating that glorious crackle. It will take anywhere between 6 to 10 minutes to turn that skin into something golden, crispy and puffy. And when your skin is all golden, puffed up and crispy, we're just going to put it on a cutting board, skin side up.
Here, let me wipe off the drool.
We're going to let these pieces rest for around 4 to 5 minutes. Why? Because the general rule for resting meat is 1 minute per 100 grams. This started off as a 1.3 kilogram piece of meat. We split it up and they're roughly 430 grams each. And if you have a close look, you should have created tons of little puffs all over the top of the skin. And once your belly has rested long enough, you're just going to use those slits we made earlier to cut it up into portion sizes. Sometimes when trying to create crackle in an oven or a barbecue, the skin just isn't heated up quickly enough. Therefore, just drying it out and turning it leathery.